It is 6 o'clock. We are going to get started. We are live in the Facebook group, Calgary Real Estate Investing. So if you're over on Facebook land, hello, please feel free to leave any comments in the live stream and I'll try to go check it at the end if there's questions or comments. We would love to hear your guys' thoughts and questions as we go along. But we will get started. Just one quick housekeeping item, which always gets asked. Yes, this will be recorded. If you are not on our YouTube channel yet, I would love if you go subscribe to us there. It is called WealthShare, and maybe I'll get a link up here in the chat as we go through this evening as well, so you can go and check it out. But let's get started. So before we begin, I do have to show our very exciting legal disclaimer that this evening's information is for educational purposes only. This is not a solicitation to invest with us. We are here to inform and learn and share our information. If you do want to read the full disclaimer, please visit wealthshare.ca and you'll be able to see it on our website there. So with that, we will take a moment to introduce who we are. My name is Natasha Phipps, and I am the CEO of WealthShare. And I'm joined tonight by Darcy Boyden, one of our partners and founders of WealthShare. And we're really excited to have you here this evening to talk about investing with your registered funds. Darcy's going to take it away and talk about his experience. Just briefly, I'm going to touch on who we are and what we do, just to give you a little bit of context as to why we're so passionate about registered funds here and all that we can do with it. So let's get started with that. Very briefly, I do want to explain again who we are. We are I'm going to go one forward actually. We are a real estate investment trust. Many people have heard the term REIT or mutual fund trust, and that is it's a type of structure that allows investors to pool their capital into the investments that REIT chooses to invest in. So we do multifamily real estate here, but there is all kinds of REITs out there and funds, and also there's public and private ones as well. So we are a private real estate investment trust located here in Calgary. And how it works if you invest with us or any of the other ones is you are purchasing or acquiring units in the trust, kind of like purchasing shares in a company, and the investors benefit from whatever the portfolio does over time. So it's a great way to get into an asset class or a type of investment that you maybe wouldn't want to go alone, but you want to have that diversification in your portfolio. So that's usually what people love about REITs. And when we first started WealthShare, the reason we were really attracted to this structure is what we're talking about tonight. And that is two pieces. Number one is that it does allow for accredited and eligible investors. So we are very, very passionate about bringing these types of opportunities to as many Canadians as possible. And many other private securities out there are really restrictive. And there's a whole host of reasons around why that may be, but our goal was to be as accessible as possible. And so with our structure, we can take investment from accredited or eligible investors, and we have our minimum set low at $5,000 or more. Oh, there's just a couple people in the waiting room there, just letting them in. So $5,000 or more, and it can be cash or registered funds. And as you can imagine, that opens up a whole host of kind of strategies that our investors can use when they're investing with us. So some benefits I do want to point out to the REIT structure is that we are registered with the Canadian Securities Administrator, so that's a mouthful, and that entails a third-party annual audit every year. So you get an annual valuation done that we must do, and it's a third-party look at what we're doing. So you can expect that once a year and have that layer of transparency within our structure. And that's another thing a lot of our investors really love, and something that we're actually working through our audit right now. It's not due till the end of the year, beginning of next year, but we've already started. It's a very lengthy process, and and one that our CFO is kind of up to her nose in right now. So any questions on that, let us know. Some quick advantages about a REIT. We've talked about a little bit of them already in terms of tax efficiencies and registered funds, and I'll let Darcy dive into that. But it also allows you to access these institutional quality investments, whether that's multifamily or malls or commercial space or industrial offices, things that the typical investor on their own is not just going to go out and do on their own. So diversification is a big thing that we talk a lot about here, and our goal here is just to be one little piece of that whole portfolio for our investors, and being able to access that pooled capital, larger opportunities, and no need to qualify for the financing is really, really appealing. So those are some of the advantages of our structure. So before I turn it over to Darcy, I did want to take a quick poll, if you're comfortable, or put it in the chat. Has anyone here invested in a self-directed investment before? That could mean private securities or even private mortgages, or is this kind of brand new for everyone here? That would just help us a little bit in the chat. Darcy, I can't see the chat. There we go. It's popping up. Yes, awesome. Thanks, Patty. Oh, only private lending, but cash. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, it's something that I think a lot of people are interested in, but I do find it can be a little cumbersome. So that is the point of tonight's presentation as well, to break down the steps simply. And to do that, I'm going to turn it over to Darcy, and we're going to get started. So take it away, Darcy.
Great. Thanks, Natasha. I just want to say a quick thanks to everybody who's watching this evening, or if you're happening to be viewing the replay later on. Thank you. So yes, I am Darcy Boyden, co-founder of WealthShare, and there's a lot of reasons that drove us into creating WealthShare. As we like to say, we are built by investors for investors, as we've walked the path of where we think some of our investors are and how they might want to contribute and get involved as well. So let's start with the basics. What are registered funds, and what does self-directing mean? So we took basically the descriptions of what those are right from CRA's website. A registered investment is an investment vehicle pre-approved by the CRA based on a submission by investment professionals to be set up as a trust or corporation. Units or shares of which are marketed to deferred income plans, such as deferred profit sharing plans and registered retirement savings plans. These funds or corporation act as pooled investments vehicles similar to mutual fund trust used by individuals. So self-directing, you can control the assets of your RSP and make the investment decisions yourself. That's the key there. So it is things such as TFSAs, LIRAs, RSPs, etc. So just to touch now on sort of my investment journey and how I first got involved with self-directing some of my RSPs or my LIRAs. It was through a workshop to be educated on investing in real estate. So basically, kind of a webinar like this was how I first heard about, I can do what with my RSP? I had no idea. So I went back and I thought, geez, I worked for a company years ago. The company was bought out. They ceased the contributions to the particular pension we were in. It was a typical one where we were set up. The company would put in a little bit, we would match a little bit, and it would grow slowly. So I went back and looked at that. I had all these statements from years. Sometimes they were up a bit, sometimes they were down a bit, but it was never in growth mode at all. So I took one of these LIRAs, which is a locked-in retirement account, and took through the steps of which we'll talk about a little more in depth later. But basically, I had to move these funds from the account they were sitting in through a trust company, and then I could direct them where I wanted them. The great thing about this investment was I took these funds and invested them in a development deal. It took about 6 years, so there was no cash flow in this particular deal, and I was able to achieve 22.8% of annualized return on investment for a total return of 126% in just over 6 years. So the returns can be amazing when you're investing in real estate, and there's so many different ways to do it, such as land development deals like this one was, or you're involved in a value add project, or just straight buy and hold. So you're going to share in the profits that happen with your investments. There's a few other things that I had that I didn't realize. I had an RSP account. Again, once I started getting involved and working with companies like Olympia Trust, which was a trust company that can help you self-direct your funds. We started adding and building more and more of these investment accounts, laddering them. Everything's looking good. Some of these projects are across Canada. We have one in BC. We have several in Ontario. And of course, here in Alberta with WealthShare. Some of the other key things that we found I really like is to find ones that offer the DRIP. Well, what's the DRIP? Well, that's the direct reinvestment plan, where profits that you may receive quarterly or annually are reinvested in and longer term for you. So you're sort of able to help grow quicker rather than waiting for a lump sum return at the end. So there's lots of options. A lot of the deals, I mean, you should be thinking in, like anything real estate, 5-year plan, right? I'm going to put my money in, I'm going to wait 5 years, and we're going to see where we're at. And it's some of these returns that we have achieved have been really, really good. Let me just check.
Might be good to mention too that your returns go back into your registered account.
That's correct. So this is the tax efficiency part you were mentioning earlier. So as you're building up your RSP account, there is no tax consequences till you take cash out of your account. So that's great too. So into your probably retirement years is when you would be hit with the tax implications, but you're planning ahead. Working with your financial advisors, of course, is always a good recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the next
one. Yep.
Perfect. So why are registered fund investing appealing right now? Well, there's a lot of changes going on in the world these days. And we just heard recently of what's going on with short-term rentals in BC. Basically, they're making it a 90-day minimum. That's going to make it harder and harder for a lot of people who are in that space to make a go of it. So with investing in things like WealthShare, you don't have to worry about what the changes are, and no tenants, no toilets. So it's another great way for you to just lock it and leave it in your investment. There's also other advantages, again, like a TFSA, for example. Well, that's tax-free savings. So you can use a tax-free savings account as a self-directed item as well.
Yeah.
And then just move on to the next slide there for me, Natasha. Thanks. And this is sort of in the planning for the future. There's certain things that happen with pensions, and whether you're in a defined benefit pension or defined contribution plan, you are subject to the laws of those plans when you start receiving your monthly payment. Now, I'm just going to talk from my experience, because some of the wording in the fine print means that I'm going to pay into this pension for 25 years or longer. And then when I start to receive the pension, which could be at age 65, it's going to pay me X dollars per month. What they don't really tell you is that when you pass away, the payment that your spouse or partner will receive, it goes down significantly. So, and then when they pass away, there's nothing left. So you may never be able to receive as much money as you have put into these plans. Some people, though, have discovered you can pull out your pension value in a lump sum. And this is something I'm strongly considering as I head into closing in on what I consider my retirement date and what my best options are. So, for example, if your pension value is $1 million, you're probably going to receive about $5,000 a month from your pension plan for the rest of your life. And then again, that's going to go down and then will cease once your spouse has passed away. If you pull out the lump sum, you have preservation of capital. You can invest self-directing into things like WealthShare or other real estate investments and preserve the capital. So it wouldn't take much if you have $1 million pension plan to make the $60,000 a year and preserve your capital, which you'll save for not only your spouse, but your estate after you're gone. So that can something that can be passed on. Again, there is some tax implications, but it doesn't cease. Mm-hmm. So these are the things that I'm worried about as I'm investing with my directed funds, self-directed funds, and things that I may want to consider into the future. So how do we invest into, just going over some simple steps. I think it's the next slide, Natasha.
Oh,
yeah.
I think that's at the end. I apologize. That's my fault. How do you invest with Atlas One, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just going to cover a few things really quick, and then maybe we can cut back to this after I finish it. But really, the first step is to sign up with your EMD, in this case, Atlas One. The steps are pretty simple from there. For those of you out there who have your money invested in your local bank or another wealth management company, you do have to move it over to a trust company such as Odyssey or Western Pacific or the Olympia Trust. Exactly. So
just a note on that one too. Each fund might use a different trust company. So one thing that we did here was we noticed that most of our competitors use one trust company, and which there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm always a big believer of giving people choices, and I think we all are here. And so we went and got approved with 3 different trust companies. So one based out of Vancouver, one in Calgary, and then also which is Western Pacific, Odyssey, and Olympia. Because again, you may have other investments that are already using these services possibly, or they each have different ways of doing things. Like some are a little bit more online based, some are smaller companies, so you get maybe a little bit different type of service. So you can shop around in that as well. And Darcy, before they go to the trust company as well, they need to get their funds in a self-directed account.
Yeah, that's correct. So the thing that's you really have to pay attention is you need to turn your account into cash, not cashing it out, but turning it into cash so it can be moved from your current bank or wealth management company into one of these 3 particular trust companies we're mentioning here. So crucial, but that's something. It out. Yeah. What Atlas One is an excellent source to help walk you through this, well as us. So.
And maybe mention too, and whether you're going through this process for WealthShare or anything else, you may get some pushback from your bank as well, from your financial, advisor there. They obviously don't want you to be pulling capital out of there. So I don't know, do you have anything to maybe mention on that, Darcy?
Yeah, very true. So it can take a little bit of time to get this process through. Sometimes, 30 days is not unheard of. But yeah, your bank definitely will probably give you some pushback and wonder what you're up to. But if you're just, let's say you don't have anything, you're just starting from scratch. You're like, I know I want to invest through a registered vehicle. Starting an RSP account directly with one of the trust companies or a TFSA is also another simple way to do this.
That's a good point. Okay, so you have your account, your funds are converted to cash, not cashed out. And then you can choose where and what those cash funds get invested in, correct?
That's correct. And usually through the exempt market dealer, they'll have the offerings for you to review and decide on which you feel is the best fit working with them.
Mm-hmm. And maybe a good point to talk about an exempt market dealer. So EMD or exempt market dealer, there's many, many companies in Canada. And it's important to understand that they are not the issuer. They are a third party that we do pay for their services. However, their job is to ensure and really protect the investor at the end of the day. So their job is to ensure you are eligible for whatever investment that you are looking at, that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, that it's a suitable type of investment for you. And that is their responsibility. And so they can be a really good wealth of knowledge as well. If you're like kind of not sure, what's maybe appropriate to have those conversations with. And then most EMDs also have a host of different types of things, like on Atlas One. I mean, they have a lot of real estate, but they even have, things in the music business and all kinds of interesting things. And so their job is to not just, buy this one thing that you came there for. It's really to have those conversations around balancing your portfolio, meeting your goals that you have inside of your own investments, and then talking to you about suitability, if that makes sense for you. So they're there to really advocate for you and protect that what you're looking at makes sense for you.
Yeah, and I fully believe in diversification in any investment world. And the fact that an EMD exempt market dealer like Atlas One has multiple options that aren't just real estate really is sort of a game changer, I think.
Yeah. The only account that's not that we have, which I get asked a lot about, and it was the first question I also asked, is the RESPs are not eligible. So just a note on that, the education saving plan, I really wish they would be, but they are not. So just a little note on that one. This slide here is on our website, WealthShare.ca. Just if you do want to go check us out, I do suggest making a profile on the Atlas One website. If you're going to our website and it asks you for a referral code, you can just leave that blank. That is embedded in our link, and it will get you where you want to go. And it's not a high pressure sales situation or anything like that. So you can go in there, poke around, learn what an offering memorandum actually is. Because all these investments that are open to eligible investors, this is another thing that I think a lot of people don't know. If it's open to eligible investors, that means that the fund or the issuer is raising money by way of offering memorandum. And that is a very important distinction. Sometimes these securities that are limited to accredited investors only, for whatever reason, that issuer group did not go down the path of setting up a offering memorandum or OM. It just didn't fit maybe with their strategy or what they needed and the expense of it, because it is a big expense and process. So that's why. It's not because them in particular do not want to work with eligible investors. It's because that's the law in Canada, and it's you fit in either category, and then depending how the issuer is raising the funds is how and why that is established. So just a little FYI on that. Anything else to add on that, Darcy?
Just people might be what an accredited investor or what an eligible investor is. There's lots of information out there on how to find out if you are accredited or not. Eligible investors currently is you have an income of 75,000 the past 2 years or a net worth of 400,000. So just a little FYI, but do your own due diligence on that for sure.
And also the EMD can speak to you about that. That's also their job. They will ask you those types of questions. If you go to the Atlas One platform and you want to invest in WealthShare or the other offerings as well, you can go through the eligibility questions without speaking to anybody. If you love the tech side of things and want to just do it hands off, you can do it that way, or you can actually connect with a real human and they will speak to you and get all your questions answered too. So that's kind of nice. And then everything, of course, is done by DocuSign. So maybe let's talk about what to expect once you have, gotten your investment into cash, you've decided you want to invest in something, WealthShare or whatever else. The exempt market dealer is then going to have you sign a subscription agreement. And that subscription agreement is your acquisition of those units or shares in the limited partnership or trust that you are investing in. And so that's really a really important document, and each subscription agreement will look a little bit different, but they do have some common things on them, again, usually related to the accredited versus eligible status. They all will have those pages in the agreement. So once that is signed, your investment then gets submitted to the exempt market dealer. They review everything. The issuer signs the agreement, which in this case would be me. And then the exempt market dealer is going to help assist the funds being transferred from your bank to your investment. And that's where that middleman comes into play, which is the trust company. Olympia Trust is the one most people know most commonly. And the one thing to note there is if you want to invest with your registered funds, you need to have an account with one of these trust companies. And they tend to charge about, I don't know, I would say 130 to 150 a year, Darcy, about for the...
Yeah, there's a small fee for sure.
Yeah, and that's an annual fee to hold your account with the trust company. Anything to mention on that?
No, I think that covers it with setting up the account and the small fees that are holding your account. Like any bank or other financial services, there are usually fees, and they are somewhat minimal in this case.
And the trust company is the one who actually pulls the funds from the relinquishing bank or institution where they're at. Once they receive the funds, they then notify us or whoever those funds are going to, and then that final transfer is complete. You are then issued your units or shares, and you will get also a profile or a login that you will have with these trust companies to be able to review your portfolio that you might have with all kinds of things on there. So that's an important one to note. And then maybe we should talk about distributions as well. When you get a distribution or when you exit, Darcy?
So there's definitely different ways that the distributions can come. Like I spoke earlier about the DRIP, which is the direct reinvestment plan. So you can have your cash disbursements reinvested right into whatever you're invested in. Great way to grow the portfolio. Or you can leave it in cash and build up enough funds. Maybe you're going to keep it in cash to go into another investment. Again, more diversification. Just to jump into a couple of questions here, is there a amount we can invest? The minimum amount for WealthShare is $5,000 at this time. And somebody, oh yes, Rodney is mentioning that Odyssey is still waiving the fees if you're moving your account over.
They've also, just for new accounts, period, they've changed that apparently. Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
So for new investors opening up an account at Odyssey, they are offering that as a promotion, I think, until the end of the year. So,
and I have accounts at Odyssey, Western Pacific, and Olympia. So yeah, so that's good news.
And to the question about the minimum, so each issuer will set their own minimum. Some of them are very high, some of them are a little bit more reasonable, and our sort of mandate here was to be as reasonable as possible. There is a point a little bit where obviously there's costs. Every time we take in an investment, there is a closing that occurs with the Securities Commission, which comes with a fee for us to do. So that is why there are minimums. And we have found a lot of our investors have been turned away at other funds because they have, say, 12,600 or whatever random amount that many other funds won't take, and we think that's crazy and really want to be the opposite of that. So that's why we set the minimum where we did, and it's been great because a lot of people have taken advantage of it. And of course, you can add to it in the future if you wish. To add to it, you would be making a new investment and signing a new subscription agreement each time, aside from your DRIP. That can be reinvested.
That's another great thing that we offer that a lot of other funds don't offer. So we've got all the options covered, or as many as we think as investors themselves like to see, having the ability to give to people to choose from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was something that we talked a lot about. So any other questions about anything? The other thing I want to talk about is like this as a passive investment, whether it's, WealthShare or other REITs or funds. And even inside of your passive investments, I know a lot of people diversify from, lending peer-to-peer for projects, or doing private mortgages, or, land development or condo developments, like Darcy was talking about. So I also love that you can diversify inside of that space, the property types, but also the timelines. Like some of these are, a set period of time for X amount. For WealthShare specifically, or any really like buy and hold type of fund, I would suggest that those are definitely long-term investments. As we all know, the key word in buy and hold is hold. So you need time to make the investment make sense. So if there's no questions, maybe I'll just talk briefly. If there's any questions on Facebook, I will check that as well. But maybe I'll just talk a little bit briefly about what we're up to at WealthShare and what we're interested in, and the reasons we are interested in the things that we're interested in, basically. So our strategy at WealthShare is we are not taking big risks. We are not taking on big development projects or renovations. We want kind of that boring buy and hold, let it do its thing real estate. And that is very intentional. We know at least around half of our investors are using their retirement funds, and we take that very seriously, and that's a responsibility that we don't take lightly. And so we want to be that portion in someone's portfolio that is that long-term boring, let it do its thing. So because of that, you do need to have that long-term outlook ideally. So ideally with us, you're looking at 5 years or longer. Now, that being said, we can talk about if you do need to exit early and what that means. Maybe I'll just touch on that at the very end. But what I want to talk about now is our strategy. And we are looking at existing or new or existing buildings that are already making money from day one. They are standing, you can drive by them. They exist already today. There's a lot of other funds out there that do development, and that is their thing. But this will be ours. And so the idea with that is it's bringing in income from day one. We want to look at mostly turnkey acquisitions or acquisitions that just need better like management. So the purpose of this is to decrease the risk as much as possible with removing as many of those variables, while still achieving a stable and kind of predictable return. We're going to talk about how we get returns as well. Our initial focus for where in the country is in our backyard here in Alberta. Most real estate investors in Canada all have their eyes on Alberta right now, and it's for very good reason. And so given this is our own backyard, this is where we have definitely the most connections to the market as well. It's where we will be focusing. And the economic outlook for Alberta right now is also very, very appealing. So if you are looking at us too, it might be interesting to think about why multifamily. Maybe you have some residential real estate or other things that you're invested in. And it's important to look at why multifamily might make sense. Number one is most people are very familiar with the housing crisis here in Canada, that affordability is an issue. We need more rental properties, and that is not going to change anytime soon. Hard assets are also a great way to protect and preserve capital, and that's no different for us. The second point here when it comes to financing is a very, very big one. It's a big difference in the multifamily commercial space than the residential space. And you often are getting more favorable amortization periods, like 40 to 50 years. The loan to value requirements and also the qualification is very, very different. So a property qualifies based on the income it produces, the net operating income, not so much on what did that property across the street sell for. And so it's a very different process. Number three is really, really key, especially for where WealthShare is at right now, or any other sort of new or newer fund. Economies of scale is a must. you need to reach a certain level of portfolio to really start bringing those expenses down per door. So things like insurance, management, even utilities, the more assets you own, the more those energy consultants can do for you and actually bring your expenses down. So economies of scale is a big one. So the more our portfolio grows, the more those costs per door are going to come down. And then the last point at the very bottom there, talking about the MLI Select CMHC insured program. I get a lot of questions about this. We are using it when we can. It does not make sense in every situation. And, you know, it's also a very much a moving target. That program is still very much developing, but what we do align with it on is sort of the values that the goal of it is, which is to provide affordable housing, accessibility, and climate compatibility. So that is another reason why we like newer real estate too. The efficiencies that come along with that are quite substantial. And just to this last point here in terms of efficiencies, the last two acquisitions that we made were actually court-ordered sales. I'm going to show you pictures of them here in a second. They are very good-looking buildings, beautifully built, but they were not being managed well. There was significant efficiencies that we made rapidly on these that really increase your value of the property just by doing things right. And so those are types of things we absolutely specialize in, and we can get very, very strategic with the numbers and how we're going to manage these properties as well. And increasing your net operating income increases the value of the building. That's just how it works in the multifamily space. So just to show you a couple properties that we've been up to this year, we are currently actually on Monday going to look at a property that we're looking at very heavily right now. It's actually the same size as this building here right now. And our next acquisition will probably be about the same size. There's a bit of a scalability when it comes to the financing that you can get on a growing portfolio. And we'll probably have one more about this size, and then ideally something double this size. So this is a 21 unit building in Mission in Southwest Calgary. It was a court-ordered sale, and we completed our CMHC refinance on this summer. It says we are on track, but we did complete that. It definitely took longer than anticipated. CMHC has really gotten behind this year with the amount of applications that have flooded the market, but nonetheless, this is done, and this will be one long-term asset that we're managing. And then this is the Winston. This is a 19-unit townhouse complex in Windsor Park, again acquired via court-ordered sale. These are both really good examples of we kind of had a bit of a head start on these, got a little bit of an idea they were coming to the market, and could make things happen on these in time for the court date. So that was very exciting times. I could talk about that for probably 2 or 3 hours just on its own. We went through a lot with these two processes, and we love these both. Just to give you an example of just efficiencies, these 19 townhouses we closed May 1st on, and all of them were under rented at least by $200 approximately. So when you increase each unit's rent, just bring it up to market rent, that is a really key indicator when you go to refinance, is what is that property performing like, right? So we did really well. We were at this property almost every day for the month of May, babysitting it, make sure we got that ship pointed in the right direction, and it's doing really, really well. Now we have amazing tenants here, so I think you can get an idea of the type of tenants we're looking at, the type of properties that we're looking at, and our belief really is that buying good assets in good areas will always be desirable real estate. Those will always be desirable for decades to come, and will continue to grow in this sort of way. So just to kind of summarize quickly what our goals were this year, our goal was to raise up to about $15 million in funds. We wanted to raise about $50 million of assets in 2023. We're not going to quite hit that mark, but with this third asset, we would be just over $30 million of assets in the last year. We have about $21 million of assets under management right now. And the third point is a really exciting one too, in that to be qualified by the CRA as a mutual fund trust or private REIT like we are, you have to have a minimum of 150 investors by March 31st of the calendar year. So it doesn't matter when you start, that's the date. And we surpassed that in March. And right now we have over 200 investors in WealthShare and continuing to grow. So we are on the path to growth. We are just sort of at that foundational level where the last year has really been spent getting our structure set up and our processes and systems. And now it's a really exciting time to focus on growth. And number 4 and 5 kind of go hand in hand. We are a big believer in free, accessible information. And tonight is a really good example of that, but we have hosted events on lessons learned in the commercial space. We've brought in financial planners, and we want to continue to share the message of people, kind of taking control of their finances as early as possible in life, really, and share our values of accessibility. We want to be as accessible as possible and be transparent as well with the challenges and the wins and everything along the way. And we have done that this year, and we'll continue to. So that's what you can expect from us this year. This one is an important slide. How do we make money? How do we make returns for you? And how does it all come together? So WealthShare has a targeted return of 12% annualized on all of these things put together. So how you make a return in real estate is, most people think about cash flow. Yes, that's an important one, but it's not the most predictable one necessarily. The most predictable and stable ROI metric on residential or multifamily is your debt pay down. You know what your debt is going to look like over 5-10 years, right? So that return on investment is a really key indicator. Leveraging the bank's money to give you a return on investment is the key to investing in real estate. These other ones, so passive appreciation, just whatever the market does, and we're always conservative on our passive appreciation. But if you look at Canadian real estate for 50 years, it's going up and will continue to go up. The component of refinancing is also a huge one if you are looking at investing in real estate, period. Most debt is people commit to a 5-year term typically, and that's what we are doing as well. And so from year 0 to 5, we will be growing our portfolio. From year 5 to 10, we will be able to refinance these properties as well, and that will provide those returns from there as well, injection of capital. And then the last one here, value add. I talked about this through the presentation, and it's a really key one. And it doesn't mean renovations necessarily, but how can we improve net operating income on properties without taking big risks? That is our mission with these properties. And often it's just, being really diligent on management. It has to be something you're looking at every single day, not once a month or once a year. It's a constant thing of how can we control expenses and how can we maximize revenue. So that value add on a property is a big one. So all of that together is how we calculate a 12% annualized return. Now, just to make one little note too, that doesn't mean that you're getting 12% in your pocket every year. We talked earlier about a valuation that is done every year. So your investment is made up of cash flow, like I talked about, and equity growth. So a really great thing about, as the debt goes down, the equity increases, returns are made by putting all of that together. So distributions that we will make once a year is what we're committing to right now, will be made up of just the cash component. So whatever cash is available to distribute to our investors that we don't need for operating. But then there's also that annual valuation that will be done to go, this is what your investment is worth right now. And that is your equity component as well. So all of that combined. So I just like to kind of make that clear. I will go over this here, just the offering again quickly. I know, and there's a couple points I want to mention to you about how fund managers make money. How does this all work? So quickly again, WealthShare is open to eligible and accredited investors that is subject to compliance with securities laws. So any questions on eligibility, that's what Atlas One is there to help you with. We can accept investment of cash or registered funds and a minimum investment of $5,000. We have a target return of 12%, but offer an 8% preferred return. So what does a preferred return mean? This is a really important thing to understand. Us as the management group, if we do not achieve an 8% return to our investors, we do not get a performance bonus based on the returns of the portfolio. So we are motivated to hit 8% and make sure that we are taking care of everything to the best of our ability at all times. Our target is always 12%, but of course, you know, things can come up. And so anything over and above that 8% is where us as the management group would receive a 20% performance bonus on the returns for that year that the portfolio did. 80% goes to the investors and we get a 20% bonus. That number is quite competitive as well, but do your research out there and see what other groups charge, because it's not just about what the fund is doing, it's how are they distributing the money, how are they making money. All of those things combined may influence your decision. And we are on a continuous raise. There is no like, once we hit this number, we're done kind of thing. We will be growing WealthShare for a very long time to come still, and are really in that infancy stage. And this is why we need our investors to support us and help support our growth and growing the portfolio. So one last slide here is, and this is from the Atlas One website. So if you do make your Atlas One profile, you will see this there as well. We just talked about most of this, but the point I want to make is about issuer fees and dealer fees. And what do those mean? And you will see this with every private security. This is not unique to us, but the numbers may look different. And this is something that you got to pay attention to when you're comparing. So issuer fees, we are the issuer, and this is how we also get paid. So acquisition fees, when we do an acquisition, we do get a 1% acquisition fee for our time and energy that it takes to do an acquisition, and also for financing or refinancing. Those are quite long and in-depth processes, and we do need to be compensated for that, as well as a 2% of the portfolio management fee. This is not property management, it's just like management of the portfolio. And then, as we talked about, this is really the key point here is if we do achieve our 8% preferred return to our investors and go above that, we do get a 20% share of the returns that year. So, and that would come after the investment fees, etc. The last one here, dealer fees. A lot of people go, what does this mean? Dealer fees are the exempt market dealer. So we talked about an EMD and what their purpose is, and they're there for a very good reason. This does not change your investment number though. If you invest 100,000, your returns are based off of 100,000. It's not 100,000 minus X. And what the dealer fees mean are in the offering memorandums, ours and every other one, there's a line in there that will describe what that issuer is allowed to pay for dealers. This number may not always be 6%. This is what ours is. And we're not always paying 6%. That's just the maximum we're allowed to go up to for what we have set out to do inside of our OM. So we always, of course, try to pay less than that to facilitate raising capital, but we are allowed to go up to 6%, if that makes sense. That makes sense? Okay. Anything to add, Darcy? Am I missing anything?
No, this is a very good summary of not only what WealthShare is, but how people can use registered funds. And don't forget, we do take cash as well.
Yes, cash is always accepted. Absolutely. And like I said, we're about half and half. And we even have a lot of people who have, X amount of cash and X amount in TFSA. So you can also mix and match as well with your investments, which is something really nice too. And the other thing to note is exempt market dealers are licensed per province. So for example, right now, Atlas One is licensed, so we can take investment from Ontario, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and they've also just added New Brunswick, right, Darcy?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So this is something we are working to expand. I actually met with a company this week because I really do want to get every single province that can invest with us, but they each do different things. Quebec specifically is a more challenging one for many reasons, but it is something that we're working on. It just takes a bit of time, and hopefully one day we'll have coast to coast availability, but right now this is where we're at. So I am going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to just put that link in the chat that I mentioned. Does anyone have any questions? Was this helpful? Hopefully. Yes. Just putting in.
Yeah, I hope we're able to say something that might resonate with you out there, that, you've got an account somewhere that you didn't think you could do anything with, that maybe there's a way for you to grow it. So hopefully.
So I'm just going to share briefly our website here. If you go to, I should close that. If you go to our website here, you can obviously, read about us and the team and the strategy in our current portfolio, but also the how to invest tab. If you go here, this is the link to Atlas One, and you can click on this and it's going to take you to the Atlas One page. So you are an investor, unless you're signing up as an issuer like us, but you're going to make an investor account. And it's going to ask you for your basic information. As you can see here, it fills out the referral code. This just means that you came through the WealthShare website, but again, you're not limited to just seeing the WealthShare offering. Once you set this up, then you can go and see the full offering memorandum, the declaration of trust, or corporate structure, all of those really detailed documents for us, and all of the other opportunities on their site. So that might be something to do in a next event, is to actually go through all of those documents and just like walk you through the actual platform and where to find them. But for tonight, we'll maybe leave it there. I know we're about end of time, so hopefully that is helpful for everybody.
Just one response to a last question that's in the chat there. The question to explain the difference between the various trust companies. And being that I have accounts with all of them, I can tell you that's just the interface. Your account will show up where you're invested, all that kind of stuff on all platforms. It's really just a difference between like CIBC, RBC, and TD. Like they're all offering similar services, and the customer service and everything, it's all there.
Yep, very similar services for sure. Some people like to know, like if you live in Vancouver, that the company's in Vancouver, like that's sometimes just preference, but check them all out. Like I said, Odyssey is giving that promotion for new accounts to waive your, so even if you're not like going to invest right away, I would suggest opening the account because it's good for a year. You have it set up, and then you're kind of ready to go if something else comes up that you're interested in. So I don't see why you wouldn't do that, because it's there and it's free and it's one of the approved companies. Now, just be mindful that there's a lot of other groups out there that they only use Olympia Trust is the most common one. They're the biggest one, but also can, just a matter of preference if you want a larger corporation or a smaller one. But a lot of other investments only use Olympia Trust.
Good point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate the feedback. It's always good to hear if something is helpful, and trying to break it all down. Is there a reason for only using Olympia? So It comes down to cost and process. So when we want to get approved by a trust company, they go through everything. They look at all of us as trustees, as founders. They go through all of your corporate structure. There's an application fee. And so it is intensive. We went through it 3 times, but it was kind of similar each one. But I assume that would be the reason why other groups don't, but I don't know for certain. There is a cost and there is time and energy and all of that. But it was really important to us to have choices. So that's why we decided to go that way. Awesome. Thanks, Patty. So good to see you. Thanks so much. I hope that was helpful. We're going to send out the recording afterwards, as well as a link to my calendar and to the Atlas One. If anyone wants to chat or connect with Darcy or I, certainly let us know. We'd be happy to connect with you offline, one-on-one. And if you have any of those suitability questions around accredited, eligible, I can connect you directly with someone at Atlas One, and you can book even into their calendar as well to have those one-on-one conversations that are more specific to you. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Well, we'll leave it there. I hope you have a great evening. Oh, Patty, you got back from your 2-month vacation. Welcome home. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much, everybody. And I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Thanks. Good night.